So today I'm going to show you how to create your first invoice using the Zoho Invoice software. Now we're actually going to go ahead and go onto our desktop so you can follow along step by step throughout this entire process. So we are now here on the home page of our Zoho Invoice settings, and we are going to go ahead and get started with creating that very first invoice. Now, because we haven't created one on this account before, the very first thing it's going to have us do is go through a 3-step process. And again, what's really nice about this is if things want to be changed in the future, you can go ahead and do that. So don't worry if you choose one thing and you want to have it look different in the future. So the very first thing in this setting is actually going to be the invoice template. And what's really cool is there are 4 different templates that you can start off with. And you can see on the right-hand side right over here, you actually see this changing in real time. So there's a standard, there's a spreadsheet, and there's 2 other ones here as well. So whichever one kind of works best for your organization and what you're looking for, you can go ahead and choose that. For example, today we are going to stick with the standard option, which is usually the one that is first clicked on over here. Now, the next thing is to upload your organization's logo. So that way, where you see this little Z over here, that's where your company's logo is going to go. Now, before we hit save over here on the left-hand side to go ahead and show that up here, we can also change the background, the label colors, as well as the font color. So you can toggle down over here, choose the color, and if you have certain colors already for your logos, you can actually put in the color templates over here. So that way you get the exact same color based off of your logo. So for our example here today, obviously the background is currently at white, but you can choose, again, whichever color works best for you. So we're actually going to keep the background at white, have that apply, but then maybe the label, we want to go ahead and have our brand colors. So we're going to click apply on there. You can actually see the colors changing right over here. That's where that color change came from. And then again, we can go ahead and choose another color if we wanted to have those come in for any other particular color from our brand or preferences based off of what we like. So if everything looks good over here, we're going to click on save and proceed. And then the next step right over here is going to be asking, how do you want to receive payments? So you can actually collect in different ways. You can have it cash, or you can have it for the online payment gateway. And you can see over here, there is options for Stripe, Square, PayPal, as well as a few different options. So what we want to do is go ahead and click on save and proceed over here, because we definitely want it to have with the options for some of these credit card payment processes. So the third step over here is going to be asking what kind of modules you would like. So if you have quotes or timesheets that you use, or you're going to have regular invoices, you can have those, or even having payment links. Again, these can change at any given time, so no stress on which ones might or might not be working best for you. You can check them all off or have them unchecked as well. So from there, we're going to go ahead and click on starting invoice. So as you can see here, it says we are good to go. We're going to go ahead and now create that very first invoice. So essentially what we did was actually create our template to make the process a lot easier in the future, so we don't have to keep changing all of those settings. So now we're going to click on that create invoice, and then that's going to take us to our invoicing page over here. You can see it says new invoice here at the very top, and it's currently toggled on for simplicity view. You can of course toggle that off if you'd like to, and I'll show you what that looks like for just a moment. It gives you a couple extra steps here that maybe you might need for your business, such as a salesperson or a subject line. But for us, we're going to go with the simplistic version here for today's example. Now, the very first thing it's going to ask you is going to be for the customer name. So you can actually go ahead and hit that toggle down if you have customers. So as you add customers into your invoicing list, these companies or people will be saved on there as well. So you'll actually have the ability to either click on them or search for them in the future. Obviously, we don't have any customers today, so let's go ahead and add a new customer. So now when it comes up for the customer, it's going to ask you first and foremost, it's a business or an individual. So just depending on which one this is going to be, the primary contact, and then you can see some of the other information it's going to ask us, like the company name, display name, the currency, which is already kind of toggled in based off of what we chose, the email address that it's going to be sent out to, as well as a phone number, if possible. Now, here's a really nice thing that I love about Zoho Invoice is that from over here, you can choose these pieces of information based off of the clients that you are sending these invoices to. So some clients might have different types of payment terms. So for example, here, when this customer gets an invoice, it could be due on receipt, or you can have net 30, net 45, net 60, whichever option you guys have come to an agreement on. So what's really nice for this is that you can have this individualized, so it's not going to be always the same for every single customer, and that you can make it customized in that order. Now, next up here, it's going to ask for portal access, and this essentially allows your customers to see your transaction histories. You can actually even see with the little eye here. It also gives the option to make the payments online. And then, of course, the portal language, maybe they speak a different language, and then any documents that you want to have uploaded for this. Now, this, of course, will be per invoice that you want to be doing. So keep that in mind as you're going through that process. Each invoice might be different. And there is going to be a detail section here that you can add a few more detail pieces that just gives a little bit more context for the customer. So I went ahead and filled this out. And what's really nice for us as well too is for our display name, we can choose to have either the company name or the actual person's name, depending on how the company prefers that. So for example, we went with the company name, which is one of our other businesses called True Financials. And so we're going to go ahead and save this now over here on the bottom left-hand side of the screen. And now that's going to have it pre-populated over here for us under the customer name. And again, what's really nice is this is going to be saved for us for the future. And as we add more customers, this list will grow, and then we can even search for those customers that we have used in the past. Now, one really quick thing to note is if by any reason you need to update or change any of their information for that particular client, maybe an email changed, on the right-hand side, there is going to be this section for their details that you can change on the fly while you're doing these invoices. Otherwise, you can also do it on the back end later under your customers tab as well. Now, the next thing here is going to ask for the invoice number. And what's nice is that it goes ahead and starts off right away with the first invoice number. And if you click this little gear here, you can actually go ahead and change it to enter in the invoice number manually. But for us, we do like to have it automatically generating for us. So the next time we go ahead and do an invoice, it will go ahead and add a 2 here, then 3, and sequentially over and over again with every new invoice. Now, you can also change the prefix if you want to, for any reason. Maybe you want to do a year, like saying 2025 or whatever year is coming up, and then it could be invoice and reset every single year at that new number. So whatever works best for you, you can go ahead and do that. We like to do the year plus the invoice number. So we're going to go ahead and hit save on there. So you can now see for us, our invoice is 2025 dash whatever number it's going to be. So it just keeps it easier for us on our back end to keep things on track. Now, next up here, it is going to ask for the invoice date. So you can see right over here, obviously it does the date that you have it set for on the time you are setting this up, but you can go ahead and choose a later date as well. Obviously keeping in mind that that is a future date, and then the net 30, and then when that date based off of the invoice date is going to be passed. Now, because we have the net 30 for this particular company, that's going to be a preset here for us. But what's nice is maybe one time you have a term that is actually going to be net 30, you can change this here in real time. So even though their preset is net 30, you can go ahead and change the term to whatever fits best if that changes for that particular invoice. All right, so we went ahead and just kept it for today's date as well as the net 30, so you can see the due date on here. And of course, you can manually change the due date as well if needed. Now, next up here is going to be the item table. This is going to be where you're going to be putting in the product or service that you are going to be offering this client to be able to get this invoice paid. So for us, what we want to go ahead and do is go ahead and start typing in the item that we want to go ahead and add. And what's really nice is just similar to the customer name and information, that as you add new products onto your invoices, those things will be saved for a future use as well. So whether it's with this company or any other company, maybe you're selling the same service, you'll be able to have this come up just the same way. So again, you can see here we have nothing currently. We're going to add new items, but then later on, this will build out a list for us. So for our example here today, we're going to go ahead and click on add new item. And then from here, it's going to be either a good or service. So we're going to click on service for today. And then this is going to be the name of the service. So we're going to call this video production for our example here today. And then under the units, it's going to ask if there's any measurements for the units, but because we're doing services and not goods, we're not going to need to fill that out. And you can see there's no asterisk on it. And then the selling price over here as well. And then if you want to put a description for that particular item. So for our example here today, let's just go ahead and say this is $2,500. We're going to hit save here on the bottom left. And what that's going to do is going to go ahead and plug this information in. You can see now it says video production. There is a little X over here that you can click on if you need to delete it, or the 3 little dots in the circle that you can go ahead and click on. I'm going to get a zoom in there. Let me move those things out. I'm going to get a zoom in there just so you can see those buttons a little bit better here for you. Now from here, it is going to have quantity, which is automatically set to 1. But of course, we can change that if needed to. And then the rate, which was that pricing. And then if you are doing any kind of discount over here, and then of course, the amount was going to automatically, mathematically put into this section here for you. So you don't have to do any math on your own, which is always a really nice thing. Now, our example here today too, I want to just go ahead and show you, if we're going to go ahead and add a new row over here, let's say we have 2 things that we're offering this company. So if we click on here again, you can actually see the video production has now shown up because we've added this as a listicle item for the future if we wanted to. And we can go ahead and just add a secondary item here. And again, we're going to just show you this quick example. So for ours here, we're just going to do a quote branding for $500, click on save here. And then now the $2,500 plus the $500 comes out to that total of $3,000. And then from here, we can go ahead and change the quantities for these. So if we do 2 of the co-branding, that's going to jump that total up to $1,000 while still showing that each one is $500. And then again, our total is being updated in real time. Now, if you are a company that has shipping costs as well, instead of having to have its own separate line, if you click on the show total summary over here, you're going to have the option right over here to go ahead and add your shipping charges. So if shipping is $15, you're going to see that happen right over there. So it's going to have its own line item already. And if you ended up toggling on the taxes section, this is also where you're going to see the percentage to be able to put in for collecting the proper taxes for your goods or services. Now, next up here is going to be for the customer note. This could be something like already pre-populated here that says, thank you for your business. You could also plug in any specified information as well as a terms and conditions sections over here for you as well. So next up here, it actually changed a little bit for us while we were going ahead and plugging in some of this information, but you could see right over here, in order to get paid with like a credit card or a debit card, we're going to want to go ahead and set up our payment gateway. So that way we can have this money sent to us through a credit card or debit card. Now, what we're going to do is click on the word setup payment gateway. And this is going to give us a couple different options here for us. So we have the options for credit card and debit card, ACH payments, PayPal, and a whole bunch of other options, just depending on what you want to offer for your clients. Now, depending on how you want to go through this, you can go ahead and have this set up. Obviously, each one is going to have its own different type of transaction fees. So please keep that in mind and be reading this as you go through. And those fees can change at any given time. Now, if you already have some of these services right over here, such as with the credit card and debit card, you can see Stripe is their preferred gateway. So if you want to go ahead and set that up, if you already have a Stripe account, you can actually just go through and log into your account. And by any chance you do not already have a Stripe account, on our channel here, we actually do have a step-by-step guide on how to go ahead and open one. So that way you can come back in here and have those two connected. Now, if by chance you do not have Stripe or don't prefer to use it, you can click on View All Payment Gateways over here. And you can see all the different options that you might have available for you to go ahead and have those things connected. So you can go ahead and receive payment through either credit card or debit card. And then again, with ACH transfer, this will be effectively the same thing. Stripe is the preferred method. And then over here, you could see all the different options to go ahead and set these up. So just to give you a quick example, when it comes to adding one of these gateways over here, for example, we're going to go into a Square one and click on the setup now. And from here, it is going to give you the option to go ahead and connect. And again, this is going to be where you're going to log into your Square account and have it instantly connected to Zoho Invoice. Now, if you don't have any of these, but you did want to set up, there is usually a sign up now button for those. So next up here is going to be a couple different options. Of course, you can just easily cancel this if you decided not to complete on this transaction for the invoice, or you can go ahead and save this as a draft if you need to finalize this later. And then there's also the save and send, but then there's also this little arrow up button over here that will actually bring up another set of options for you, which I really love. So you can actually save and print, you can actually save and share, and then you could also even save and send later, which I love because there's times where I can make invoices late at night and I would prefer that invoice to get sent out later in the next morning rather than that late at night. Now, one other thing we did want to talk about, there is this little checkoff box here. If by any chance you are getting paid on an invoice through cash or have already gotten that payment, but they prefer an invoice, you can actually click over here to say that you've already received the payment, choose the payment type over here as well. And if it was a split payment, and then that way you can send an invoice that has been fully paid for already. So again, whichever option works best for you is going to be the one you want to go with. Now from here, we're going to go ahead and click on the save and send. This actually doesn't go ahead and send it right away. This actually saves this and shows you what the email is going to look like. So it kind of gives you a brief heads up, which is always really nice. So from here, it's going to show you the subject line, which you can go ahead and change, as well as who it's being sent to, and then the CC. It will always CC you as well when it comes to having the sent. And then from here, you can go ahead and see the invoice and what it's all going to look like for us. You can see over here, you can attach a customer statement if you needed to, or you can go ahead and attach an invoice PDF. So that way they can actually have that invoice downloaded as well. So if everything here looks good, we got our logo, we got our color, we got our proper invoicing numbers, we got all of the information and everything connected for us to get paid. This all looks good. We're going to go ahead and want to click this send button over here on the left-hand side. But before we do that, if you decide not to send it just yet, this will just automatically be drafted into your invoice pages. So you can have have it accessed later. So I just want to quickly show you what that looks like, and then we'll click the send. So on the left-hand side here, it says invoices. So if we click here, you're going to see that invoice right over here, and the status is as draft right over here. So we're going to click back into this section. This is kind of what it looks like just in that preview page here as well. So you can see everything on here. So then we can go over here on this setting over here. So we can either schedule it again if we wanted to, or go ahead and send that email. You can click that edit button, kind of get back to that page we were earlier as well. So if we go ahead and click on edit, this is going back to that original setting page. Clicking on that save and send back here at the bottom takes us right back to that email that gets sent out. But again, if you want to see that invoice, that's going to be the PDF that's going to be over here. Because everything looks good here for us, we're going to want to go ahead and click on send here at the bottom left hand. And you just saw up there, it said our invoice has been sent. We can now see the due date over here in 30 days. So that way, if it becomes overdue, this will show overdue. So we can be paying attention to when we are or aren't receiving our payments on time. And from here, I actually did want to show you on the back end what the email is going to look like, as well as the invoice. So this is the email we get. It actually gives us a brief synopsis up here at the top from our Google account. And again, this is going to be the basic email over here. You can see the PDF that's available. And if somebody clicks on the view invoice, it's going to take them to that portal that we gave them access to, so they can actually see this and see their previous transactions, as well as being able to pay directly on here. Now you can see here, it says that it's outstanding. It shows the invoice. It shows all the descriptions that we added and the total amount due. And just like that, you created your very first Zoho invoice. Now, when it comes to running your small business, we got you covered with more tools and tips. Go ahead and check out our video right over here to keep on learning.